Well, after getting a full belly of turkey with all the fixings, I'm back from my brother's and out in the shop and started mocking up some of the parts on the motor. So I can put the motor in tomorrow and start mocking up everything else. We got the headers on. My ceramic headers, they fit really well. All kinds of room. There's a couple bolts here you have to use an open end 7/16 on, but I think I'm just going to take one of my cheap 7/16 wrenches and grind the box end down a little bit so it'll fit in there better than using a open end. There's lots of clearance for spark plug wires and to get the spark plugs in and out. This side here, I think is going to work out. It's mighty tight with the starter, and this is the big flywheel. It doesn't show up very well, I don't think. It's dark, but as you can see, the mounting block for the starter is actually touching the header tube. I moved the solenoid in closer to the block, and the motor, there is daylight between the tube and the motor, not much, but then again there is no header gasket in there, so that's going to help out a little bit. So what I think I'll do is I'll just take the die grinder and I'll just soften that corner up and give that a little extra clearance. My alternator bracket, I didn't have my water pump at the time, so I just mocked it up to make sure all the bolt holes are going to line up. Last time I had one, I had a little bit of an issue, and everything just didn't line up quite right. Now these heads are milled, or planed down as you could say. They are now 58cc chambers, so as you plane that down, that's going to mess up your spacing between your water pump mounting bolts and your accessory bolt. But it must just been the other bracket, because this fits fine. There's no issues at all. So now we can put the water pump on. My water pump, I just got some things dropped off. I now have my new deep finned aluminum TCI transmission pan. This here is my new Proform electric water pump, so we'll put that on with the bracket now and mock it up. And this is my CVR electric vacuum pump. This here is not a belt-driven pump. This is an electric pump that's going to create vacuum for the power brakes. As most people know, with a big camshaft with lots of duration and overlap, you don't have any manifold vacuum. When I had the car on the road before with the little 450 horsepower motor, this just has a not a real radical solid flat tappet in it, but it did not create much vacuum at all. So at that time I put on a vacuum canister. That helped out some, but even after a couple pumps, 3 or 4 pumps of the brake, you lost power brakes. So with that electric vacuum pump, I'll always have vacuum for power brakes. So we'll start opening up start off with the water pump, and we'll put that on and put on the alternator bracket for good. The alternator, I gotta go out and I gotta find my my crank pulley that This one here I would run, but I need the second groove for my power steering belt. So I got to round that up, and then I can line up, put on my power steering pump, my alternator, line up my two belts, and then the motor should be ready to drop in tomorrow and check the oil pan. That's the only issue I'm going to have right now. And if this starter does give me a little bit of problems, I have a solution for this. This is the big flywheel, which is best to use because it starts the motor a lot easier, because being a bigger diameter, it acts like a lever and it cranks over easier. The little motor here has the small flywheel on it. So if I have any troubles, I'll just put the smaller flywheel on, which will allow me to move the starter in. Anyway, get back at it, and I'll take a video as I get going along. See you later.